Hi, good afternoon to everybody. This is going to be a panel of the Hungarian Oncoming tunes. I would like to greet my speakers, my panelists, servants, and in a short term, I just want to tell you that after the conversation, you're gonna have opportunity to ask your questions, and we also get the opportunity from the organizers to show you some short presentations of those services we are going to talk about today. So if you have 5 extra minutes, then stay here and watch the show. And now I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself shortly, and please tell me some words about your backgrounds in music industry.
Shall I start?
Of course.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Clément Souchier. I'm the founder of Bridge.audio. I was previously the founder of Criminal Music Supervision, so I've been mostly, I would say, working within the music industry, especially at the intersection of the music industry and entertainment industries by finding sync opportunity and original music composition opportunity to publishers, artists, labels, and so on. And with Bridge.audio, the idea is more or less to do the same in a way more scalable way by simplifying how you can share, organize your music, and also be discovered by music supervisors and sync people. So that's what we do, and I guess we're gonna dive a little bit more right after.
Yes.
My name is Jesper, and I am the CEO and founder of WARM, which is acronym for World Airplay Radio Monitor. My background in the music industry has been since 2008, I think, where I was a manager and had a record label. I did touring and various other roles, and at that time I discovered how difficult it was to have access to global radio airplay data, and then I started WARM, which is what I do now.
Thank you.
Hello, so my name is Ael. I work at a company called Soundcharts, and I run partnerships there. I started in 2018 in the music industry. I worked for a radio for a few years in the programming side of things. 5 years ago, I launched the partnership department of Soundcharts, and so my task is mainly to help people make the most out of the music data that is out there to use Soundcharts platform or to build other tools leveraging that data.
Thank you. All your services are circulating around data, so please tell us some more about your services, what is it doing in depth, how does it look like, what clients are there using your services?
I can start again if you want. So yeah, Bridge.audio is really a tool that is is built around 2 pillars. One of the pillars is named the workspaces, so you can create your workspace as an artist, publisher, manager, whatever you do within the music industry. I like to describe the workspaces, like I did yesterday with you, Zsófi, as being kind of a mix between SoundCloud and Google Drive. So it's a cloud-based solution, but dedicated to manage your catalog and the way you receive, store, organize, and share music. And so that's the first pillar that will help you to share your music way more beautifully and efficiently than juggling between WeTransfer and SoundCloud in private links, in a way. So that's the first pillar named the workspaces. And besides the workspaces, we have a marketplace within the tool dedicated to sync. So once you have your tracks uploaded on your workspace, you can also decide to make some of your tracks available to all the buyers, music supervisors that are also users of Bridge Audio. The idea is really to simplify the interconnection, like I said earlier, between your music and these people that are looking for good music. And so once you decide to make all your catalog public or some of your tracks public, because maybe some of them will be still demos, the ones that are finalized at least should be shared on the marketplace. And by doing that, you will allow all the music supervisors that are using the platform to dive into your music. Because as soon as you are uploading your music on Bridge, it will be very precisely described in terms of genre, subgenre, the mood of the track, in what language it is sung, French, Hungarian, English, Spanish, what it is talking about, what is the mood of the track, what are the images that could work well together with your track, a chase scene or whatever it is. And so by doing that, we have actually 3 interesting use cases based on this very good description of your music. The first one is that if you are owner of a big catalog, I guess if you are mostly artists here, it's maybe not the case, but if you are owner of thousands and thousands of tracks, then it will help you to dive into your own catalog. For instance, Sony Publishing, they own 2.9 million tracks. So in fact, it's 26 years listening 7 days a week for 24 hours a day if you want to listen at least once all the tracks they own. So that gives you the kind of idea. So by having all the catalog very well described, they can dive into their own catalog saying, do we have a song talking about Christmas in Hungarian that would be pretty fashion, whatever it means, and they will find it within a snap. That's the first use case. The second use case is that as owner of a workspace, you can receive music on your workspace. So that this is especially interesting for A&R people, because when you are an A&R, you are most of the time receiving more than 24 hours of music every day, so it doesn't work. And so instead of listening to everything that they are receiving, they can decide to say, okay, did I receive in the last few days some cloud rap sung by a female lead in Spanish that would be talking about Earthbreak, if this is the thing they are looking for at the moment, and they will find it within a snap. Second use case. I'm not sure if you are mostly artists that this is a use case interesting for you. But the third one is interesting for everyone, that the marketplace I was talking about, once you decide to make your music public, it will be also described. And so all the music supervisors that are looking for tracks, they can dive into their own workspace, but also decide to switch on the marketplace to see, okay, do they have a track? We made the experience yesterday evening with an artist, a Hungarian artist, and it was some rap song sang in Hungarian with explicit lyrics talking about, as far as I remember, empowerment. It's pretty often the case with urban hip-hop, but some other stuff. And so once you have this track uploaded on the marketplace, if a music supervisor is looking for that kind of music, they will be able to find it in a snap. And if they are interested in licensing it, they will see, okay, who is the right holder behind this track? This is that label or that artist, and they will contact you to finalize the sync opportunity. So like I said earlier, I'm still mostly working at the intersection of the music industry and entertainment industries by doing this. But this way, we try to make it way more efficient and way more scalable, because when I was doing that as a sync broker / music supervisor, I told you that yesterday, we were receiving way more music than we were able to dive in. So in fact, it was kind of frustrating not to be able to know all these USB keys I was gathering when I was going in that kind of event. So now it's automatized, and so your music is available to many potential buyers, not just me, and that's the idea.
Thank you. And you, Jesper?
Yeah. Well, Warm is, as I mentioned, a radio airplay monitoring service. We started the company in 2017. We have a lot of clients that use it primarily for market intelligence purposes, and most of our clients are in dance music. So we power Armada, Tool Room, Defected, Ninja Tunes, etc. And radio promoters like Your Army, Listen Up, Concrete, Syndicast, etc. Basically, yeah, it's very simple. We sell radio data. Right now we are monitoring, I think, 23,000 radio channels in 150 markets. Everything is in real time. It's based on audio fingerprinting and music recognition technology, as you know from Shazam. So basically, I think the delay is maybe around 30 seconds, 30, 40 seconds, then you'll have your radio airplay on your dashboard. We have primarily, as I mentioned, our clients use it for market intelligence purposes. So let's say you're a radio blogger, you are a promoter, you have a label as a client, then you can report much better back to the customer compared to if you use the radio monitor, for example, which has a lot less radio stations monitored. Anyway, then we power also, for example, booking agents in terms of figuring out new places to book their artists. Recently, I just made a deal with a major label in Portugal who actually wanted a radio chart based on the selected African countries that speak Portuguese. So, for example, in this case, Universal, they don't have an office in Angola. But Angola is then, they speak Portuguese native language, so therefore it is under Portugal. So in this case, of course, they wanted a weekly top 100 charts of the most played songs in Cape Verde, Angola, and Mozambique, for them to be able to use it as an A&R tool to discover which songs are trending locally on radio in these markets, so they can, of course, sign them much faster. And of course, also we have publishers and other similar companies that uses the data for validation and to collect their money via the societies, for example, usually in foreign countries. We power, for example, Vice Music Group, which is a very big publisher in Germany, and multiple other countries. They use it for income tracking, and for example they have Marilyn Manson catalog. So for example, Tainted Love is a very unique title. They can then search in the database of Warm to find other songs with the title Tainted Love, and chances are that it's most likely a cover version, and if it's not been approved, then they have the opportunity to do something about it or claim the money, etc. So basically, on two sides, there's evidence to support royalty collection, and there is market intelligence. We also have clients that monitor, let's say, similar songs, because there is no rights issues in terms of what you can monitor on the platform. You can track whatever songs you want. You don't have to be affiliated with the song, which means, of course, that let's say you are a punk band and you have, let's say, difficulties getting through radio airplay. You can actually monitor similar punk songs, let's say, from bigger artists, and in that way you will quickly get a directory of relevant radios that you can promote your music to. And usually, let's say, in this case with punk, and let's say it's a smaller niche specialist radio in whatever country, chances are that it's much easier for you to engage with the radio rather than if it is a big commercial radio. I will shut up now.
Why?
Oh,
it's so amazingly cool to have something like that. Do you have? Were you ever asked by collective management organization to give your software for them?
No. I feel there's a big, like there is a very big problem in the music industry in general about transparency and what is relevant data, and this is a conversation we can talk about for many, many hours. But the main thing is that I feel major labels have a big say in. No, let me start off. Let me start differently. So if you are a major label, you have different offices in different markets, which have responsibility of those areas, obviously. Whereas if you're an independent artist, you work globally, right? It's like if you release your song in Hungary, but for whatever reason it's trending in Belgium, you would focus on Belgium. You can't really do that necessarily if you're signed to a major. If you're signed to a major in Belgium and your song trends in Norway, then the guy from or person from the major label needs to convince the other major label office about this. This takes me to also how royalties works and how publishing and societies works in general. And a lot of these have major label representation in the board, and in the end they are benefiting more from the intransparency than they would, or they argue they would, with having complete global transparency. So let's say in the case of Denmark, we are monitoring, I think, 180 radios in Denmark, but only about 30 have an actual minute rate attached. So that means there's 150 radios in Denmark that do not have a measurable tariff. And then, you know, this transcends to a myth that radios don't pay, which is obviously not true, because it's very difficult to run a radio without paying the society in that country, unless you are in Angola or something like that. But in Europe, you wouldn't be able to. Pirate radio stations are more a myth than reality. But in this specific case with Coda in Denmark, then they will do sample-based testing of 2 weeks of these remaining 150 radios, which means that if you are a major label, chances are that you will be part of this sample test. And so if you're an independent artist and you have, let's say, much fewer songs, then chances are you don't get selected, and then you don't get the money from these plays. And this happens quite a lot on, basically this is what I call the reverse Robin Hood model. So they take from a lot of small, let's say, poor artists, and they bundle it and give it to the biggest artist. Or they put it in a black box, and the black box is often much more accessible for major labels or publishers. So it's difficult. It's a very complex situation, but the main thing is that we don't get an interest. We don't have an interest from the societies to actually improve the coverage of radios. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a long answer again.
It was an interesting one. Please, yeah.
So hello again. So Soundcharts is also in the business of data. We are a tool that monitors mainly streaming platforms, social networks, and also a bit the radio. And we have a dashboard, so it's a SaaS platform which you can access and download. It's available in the apps. In the stores, and it's used for two main reasons. The first one would be if I'm trying to monitor a profile to find out everything that's public about this profile. So I could be an artist, I could be the artist manager, agent, and a record label. And looking at an artist, I can see the demographics of the audience. I can see if there is any playlist entry that happens in real time, and you receive notifications as soon as there is a tiny sparkle somewhere. And also any chart entry is referenced on the tool. The other way of using and leveraging Soundcharts would be around discovery. So as we have that monitoring at scale of music metadata and data metrics, it's quite easy to say, I'd like to find artists that are I don't know, from Hungary or the Netherlands, and that do punk music, and also that are growing on TikTok. Their first release ever should be less than 4 years old, so I'm only looking at new bands, and let's create a sort of small chart of that, and let's listen to the music directly in app. So this is used by radio programmers. This is used by people who want to do also programming, but more on the live side of things. So you have promoters, you have festivals as well, and also, of course, by A&Rs. What we also do is, so we have an API. All of it is like stored, and we have a sort of database powering our own app. And so this data, you can find it on other tools out there. So there are tools like Roster, if you're familiar with this platform, or a bunch of other tech companies that at one point needs a brick on which you build other things. Meaning, I'm trying to build an AI agent, for instance. I like at one point to be able to categorize profiles and to know how big they are on social media platforms, streaming platforms. What are the similar artists within this specific niche, this specific music genre, this specific region? And so this database is used to solve industry problems outside of our own platforms. So that's the fun part of it. So we're like a tool that aggregates a lot of public data and information, and that is used by others to fill out a bunch of use cases. Hope that's clear.
Sounds good. This question wasn't in your primary description, but I got the idea from Jesper. What do you think about transparency of data in music industry? Is that a current problem, an actual problem, what you're facing day by day? Do you have an answer for that? How to clean those data? Are you working with that?
I can start. I think it's a big problem, and it's the complexity is enormous, and it's something that affects a lot of, like as I said before, the reverse Robin Hood model. It affects the upcoming segment the most. If we say, like, for example, in terms of, if we go back to the example before with sample-based testing and stuff, it's like, imagine if you make music and then you are played on, you make a jazz record and it's played, you use my software, you can see that it's played on 50 jazz radios in Europe, which is amazing. You know, you call the radio stations, you make interviews with them, your agent can, you know, book tours around this, figuring out, oh, it's Montreal jazz, what's it called, festival, and you can use the information for a lot of things, and then by the end of the year you get your report from the society. I don't know the Hungarian one.
Yes.
But in that case, imagine then when the year's over and then you get nothing, because someone decided that your music on these radios was not worth distributing correctly. And not only that, then they use a method that most likely makes that these songs will, the money from these songs will end up with Ed Sheeran or something like that. So it's a complete crazy situation. And also, if we see, if we again look at the example with Denmark with the 30 radios versus the 180, then the information about this will then also be used to distribute public performance. So let's say you have a restaurant and it's an Italian restaurant, you play only Italian moussaka or whatever, gondole music from Venice, and then the society collects the money, whatever it is, €2,000 a year or whatever, and then they distribute it based on streaming data and the wrong radio data. So it's like it's becomes wrong data that they use to distribute other things, and this continues in the complete ecosystem of the music industry. And then the next thing is that royalty, like values of radio, like how much is this specific airplay worth on this song, is completely intransparent. Like if I'm a songwriter in Denmark and my song is released and let's say it has the most plays in France, I can try and call SACEM, but they're not going to give me the rates, even though they are obliged to make it transparent in terms of the EU regulations, but I don't give a shit about that. And so the transparency of understanding what the value is, whether it's radio or public performance or festivals or whatever, it's extremely difficult, and they hide behind different things. Like, for example, if I call SACEM, they can only speak French, and nobody can. So unless I can speak French, they can't help it.
But you can now call Clément to.
I'll try.
I will translate. Yeah.
And then the next thing is that they usually say that this is secret information because they argue that they need to, let's say, negotiate with each radio stations and media companies about. But this is also bullshit, because I'm not asking about if this radio pays 2 million euro. I want to know how much is a 1 minute worth. So there's no unified system, and this is only on publishing, so this is equally fucked on neighboring rights. So in this situation, it can be very demotivating, I think, for especially for artists, that you put a lot of energy into something, you release it globally available on platforms, you try and do your best to make it go viral, or you go to showcase festivals, you apply to grants in EU, and you can then see you are played on radio, and then you get nothing. I think it's a huge issue, and it's a very big issue, I think, around the motivation of creating music in general.
I totally agree. I think it's also something that comes from decades where it was very complicated a long time ago to really know what was played. So that's also why we've been deciding of making some splits that were not always totally based on the real data, but what was supposed to be the information. Mm-hmm. But like you said, Jesper, now we are supposed to know, at least we have a potential better transparency, but I guess not everyone is very interested in being very, very transparent, because transparency then would generate less black box, less unfair splits, where indeed some of the bigs took advantage of these splits. But to go in the direction you were giving, Jesper, I know that some people worked at least on the restaurant part. I know that there is this, I was looking for the name of the company, but I didn't find it. There is this English guy that was in a band that were he spent sometimes having some drinks in a restaurant or cafe, whatever, and he listened to his own music. That's a real story. And by the end of the year, he was looking for the author right coming back, at least from this, because he was sure he listened to it. But then he realized that all this was made on a split that is not supposed to be that precise. And then he launched, apparently, this tool that is made to put in every restaurant next to the sound system, where you will have kind of a Shazam doing the exact playlist of what was played, and no more like global. But I think that it's working. As far as I know, it's working. Do you know what company I'm talking about?
But I can't remember the name either. Now you made it happen. It's audio something, or it's. I think this is never going to work, to be honest, because in the end, it's about the societies wanting to do so, and you can also argue that finding this specific Italian restaurant which have 10 tables and bring out pizza and they pay whatever I don't know, 200 euro or 2,000 euro a year. You have to find that, and you have to install a device, and you have to retrieve the data, you have to storage it, you have to then also convince PRS and PPL to use it, to distribute it on. And of course, I know this guy, I'm not sure if it's this, but one of them guys, one of the guys from ABBA, and he's also in PRS or PPL, etc. So, but in any case, it's a big group of people, and it's very serious business. But I have a very hard time seeing this model work on a scalable way. I had a discussion with a company called DJ Monitor, who did a panel at ADE 5 years ago, maybe. And they worked together with Buma Stemra to do, which is a collection society in Holland, and they worked together with them on doing monitoring on venues as well as festivals and stuff. And these venues, I believe it was in 8 or 10 years, they were on 12 venues in Holland, and they were very proud of this. And it's like, but like it's gonna take centuries if this is like, if this is the process, and they have to start top down, right? You have to start with the biggest venues. So again, like the long tail is gonna be left out, and even if this worked with the UK company, in the end they will say, but you know, all restaurants less than this, or places, shops or boutiques, whatever, less than this size, we can't do it with. And then we're left kind of with the same issue, right? Because it's often, let's say, more independent music that is connected to something that is more specialized. So a specialist radio would probably take many more chances on the music. Whereas if you take a very commercial radio, often their tagline is, we play the biggest hits or something. And so in that sense, it becomes a big problem for, again, the long tail.
I think we understand the point. Eyal, do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I agree. I completely agree. The data in the music industry is very fragmented and not clean in all different verticals. And indeed, you have some black boxes from collection societies who only monitor panels or sub-panels of stations to decide who's going to get the money. Once every 5 years, you have 10 guys in the room who have a meeting and who say, well, should we change things? And then they move on to the next topic, and they take the agenda to like 5 years later, and in the end, nothing changes. And well, at the same time, it's an opportunity also for like companies like us and our business to also at one point bring something to the table, say, well, we can monitor partly things at scale and show that the split is not correct. And we also have a lot of clients who use our data to say, well, actually I can see that what I receive is not what I'm supposed to receive. But in the end, we're also part of the problem of like the tech companies monitoring data that is checked by other tech companies, and all that ends up in a black box. So yeah, I think that a panel and a question like that happened already 10 years ago, and we're a bit still the same place. So yeah.
And if I can say something, most of the societies are non-profit, right? So. And in good and bad, because that means that, you know, it can be difficult for them to, let's say...
They don't have the business interest.
Yeah, and for them it's like they have to spend the money. So let's say there's a surplus, then maybe we can hire more people, or we can have a party. Or in Mexico, they bought like 15 Range Rovers to the board of the association. And it's like, there's different ways to spend the money. And next, also a complicated thing is that societies kind of trust each other, right? So the whole concept of the societies is that this society takes the responsibility of collecting and distributing the money across broadcast in general from this specific country. But I don't know how the situation is in Hungary, but let's pretend that it is a corrupt system. And then you are a member in, for example, Germany. And so you would then expect the Hungarian society to report to GEMA, which then would report to you, and GEMA would then expect them to do so. But this is where like control comes in. It's like trust is great, but control is probably better.
Okay. Is there any other difficulty in music industry or music tech industry that you are facing?
In general, today?
Yeah, for example.
What, sorry, again?
Problems.
Yeah, problems, so difficulties. Clément, I know you have an idea.
We could talk about AI, generative AI, and so on, but I'm afraid it might take too much energy and bad energy. Now, maybe now I could be interested in talking about something that I think I never really talked about in terms of difficulties, I would say, and I've been talking a little bit about that yesterday with you, Zsófi, is the fact that we are not that much a very geek industry. And so that's another difficulty that sometimes I noticed when I was in the idea of selling my previous company, Criminal, to start Bridge. I was very happy to bring what we are doing to the industry, considering that it's something very interesting for an artist, a label, a publisher to start having not only a way to make their music very well organized, but also to be able to make more things very easily and have their music accessible to music supervisors and so on, and making more money at the end of the day. But what sometimes I discover is that, yeah, the industry is both interested in tech, but also sometimes kind of tech avert, and it's. I'm sometimes surprised how long it takes for people to stop doing shit with WeTransfer, Dropbox, and SoundCloud, just because it's been 15 years they are doing shit, and you can't imagine how complicated it is to change the habits, even the bad ones. And sometimes you bring something amazing like Warm or Soundcharts or Bridge, and you could consider that everyone will understand the value of it within a snap, saying, I was very interested. I didn't know that well Warm before this panel, so I would be here in the audience considering what Jesper told about this example of punk, where you will be able to dive into these specific radios that are already playing punk music. It's an amazing information. I would be very excited taking notes here. But in fact, not that many people are very curious into diving in all that. And I think it's sometimes kind of frustrating because I think some techs are really bringing high value to all of you, but we can't force anyone to use it. And so, yeah, that's a topic. You feel free to take what we are bringing to you guys, because it's really worth it. I mean it very, very seriously. And sometimes even some very good friends of me took like maybe 12 months, 18 months to start finally using Bridge. And then they call me saying, you were right, it's amazing. I told you, it's been like 18 months that I am trying to make you change your bad habits, but we can't do it for you. So sometimes we are not all always running, but sometimes it's important to take the time to consider the new options, especially when they are already around for, I would say, a few months or at least years, because you might also consider adopting solutions that will not survive, and it's not an option. But once you see that an amazing tool such as Soundcharts is there, and what you can benefit from it, I would really highly recommend to have this curiosity of diving and finding a way to make these tools yours.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I have sort of the same point. So Soundcharts was founded in 2015 by someone who was running a management company and who was tired of doing spreadsheets. And so the spreadsheet became Soundcharts, in a way. And when we started to pitch it, and even very recently, we noticed a huge misunderstanding about what our North Star was and what we were trying to achieve. At first, a lot of people feared a bit what we were trying to achieve, like just not understanding that we were just a data aggregator, but it would be the tool that might replace them or might replace their instinct. I had a lot of demos that basically could be summarized by hello, yes, but instinct, okay. Soundcharts, just like a bunch of other tools, is built to be a productivity platform. And actually, the moment where it has the highest value would be if you are a jazz festival in a very specific niche. You don't have all of the tools that majors or Live Nation would have, and you need intelligence about your market. In that sense, for this use case, well, Soundcharts is perfect. But you still have that, well, actually I've been doing that for the past like 30 years, and I managed it well, and instinct, and so, okay, good. We always see a lot of people being very curious about the tool in a lot of different verticals and industries, but also we still see a lot of people being a bit reluctant to use that. And I can't help but think, well, you were like you feared us at the beginning. Well, now with AI, what do you like? It's that, well, worth 1,000 times. And so yeah, the tech company is just like any other company, and we're not like the big villains of the story. And we try to bring value, especially to the ones who don't have Universal or any other super big company with a bunch of data scientists and analysts alongside with them.
And I would also say that, like you said, for David, the founder of Soundcharts, it's always a guy that was exactly like you, considering his own pain of doing that or that finally decided to make something for himself or herself, and then it starts becoming something for everyone. So it's generally the ones that are really useful, because some tech companies have no interest and at the end of the day might disappear. But the ones that really survive to the first years are generally made by people coming from this industry and are really, I would say, in that sense, very useful. We generally made these tools for ourselves before starting considering to make it for the others.
But I mean, I think there's many problems in the music industry. But as you can hear, I think that transparency is let's say, one of the bigger issues. But we also have streaming rates, which is also a really interesting discussion, because a lot of people complain about how much Spotify pays and whatever streaming platforms pay, but nobody knows what they should pay. So I also feel there's a lot of complaining, which is sometimes a little bit like, let's try and get to something more concrete or specific, instead of continuing to complain about how much Spotify pays or Deezer or what YouTube. Let's maybe try and talk about what should they pay and what is the value of music when it's accessible to everyone in their pocket. I mean, we're not in the 80s or 90s anymore where, you know, maybe we had 1,000 records a week or something globally or whatever released, and you really had to be a skilled musician. You really had to someone believe in you. Now we have a lot of music coming out, obviously, and I think that's also part of an issue that we will need to solve. Now it's 120,000 songs a day. Maybe in 3 years or 2 years, maybe it's 1 million, and so then that's gonna also probably mean that a lot of new companies will pop up, similar to yours, where it's like you can search and query and figure out how you find the right music. And all these things brings me back to human curation and actually radio. So I would think that in a, let's say, much more automized way than we have now, we will see an alternative to automatic curation through Spotify platform algorithms and playlistings. Then people probably will start looking more into gatekeepers and whether that's influencers who pushes niche music, or whether it's radio personalities or artists or whatever. I think we're gonna see much more value around that to kind of like filter out these things. So I think that we're gonna see a lot of opportunities in this space.
Yeah, considering the discoverability you were talking about, it's indeed, I totally agree, one of the biggest challenges. Today we have more and more music released every day. So the numbers became so big that it's even complicated to represent it in a simple way. I would say maybe that today I think we are not far from having 1 year of music released every day. If you take the number of tracks released every day. So it's really, so 1 year where you would be listening to all the tracks released during a day, it will take, if you don't sleep, 1 year of listening all that. Considering that, and maybe to go back on what we are building with Bridge, we don't consider that we are solving this big issue, but at least we try to ameliorate and boost what we call discoverability. I love this word because it shows both sides of what discoverability means instead of talking about discovery. Discoverability is how you can discover or be discovered. It's the two different aspects of what means discoverability. And what I was saying yesterday to Zsófi is that before, when I was acting as a music supervisor, I was pretty often invited to this kind of event, especially for the sub-event named Meet the Music Supervisors. I don't know if you already participated in this kind of events. That's some speed meetings where you are meeting like 15 labels and artists within 1 hour. And then you are coming back to your place with these 15 USB keys. And in fact, it's not really solving discoverability because you don't have the time, in fact, to dive into all these USB keys. So whereas you are interested in, I mean, all the music supervisors that are going from places to meet you are, for most of them, interested in doing their job of discovering new music. But in fact, as we are receiving more music than there are hours in a day, we feel kind of guilty, or at least I was feeling kind of guilty not to be able always to listen to all the music. And what we are doing with Bridge is really to help this, because we don't consider it's possible to listen to all this. But at least if everything is very well described, let's say if I was giving you this image yesterday, if I could be able to ask my USB keys on my desk, who of you owns a folk music song intimate with a female voice talking in Hungarian about earthquake? And if the USB was able to take, yeah, me, I've got that song. It would be way more interesting for me. That's not possible, but it's possible to do it thanks to Bridge, and at least that's the idea. We have to finally make the music smart enough that nobody will be able to listen to all of this, but at least when you are interested in finding some very specific track, and that's what we do as sync brokers and music supervisors, you can find it like this. And that's an open door to discoverability for sync, but once you have your music synced, then you might open another door that is very interesting, is that DSPs, so Spotify and so on, will also be interesting by your music because it was in this TV show in Slovenia, in France, in Spain, or wherever it is, and it will generate some curiosity and a new way of showing your music to these people. So that's a double nice effect.
They were showing me that our time is over, so please, Eyal, if you have your final thoughts.
So on that specific question and the discoverability part, it's also an issue that we're trying not to solve, but to bring something to the table at Soundcharts, both in terms of how the artist can be discovered. So on Soundcharts, any artist can fill out his own metadata, making sure that everything is correct, and also fill out all of the links, so that if there is any sparkle that happens, professionals who use the service will be also able to find them in a correct niche. And on the other end, we have those filters that allow our users to easily understand what was previously left in the dark, meaning what's the reality for this Belgium artist, but in Spain, but in Portugal or Italy, and making sure that everything that's public is aggregated in one place so that you can easily do discovery. And if you're searching for like jazz artists who released music in the past 3 years and who are touring right now and that are from Europe, you already have your pool of artists pre-segmented in the tool. And you can do that for the recording, you can do that for the live industry, for radio programmers as well. So it's really, to make the music discovery easy and for artists to be able to fill out their own profiles. And making it simple is the hardest thing, because at the beginning you have DSPs that do not align with one another about artist profiles, some DSPs merging everything, some others being sort of clean, and receiving data about chart entries, about playlist entries, radio plays. We do not do that on the same level as WARM, but we have some stations that we monitor in each country, and making sure that all of it is easy to digest in the dashboard is not an easy one. So yeah, that's still our North Star and what we're doing at Soundcharts.
Thank you for all of you for this conversation. I have a lot of questions remain, and I'm sure that the audience have also very many questions. So you're going to be here, promise. Mm-hmm. So please, I have to cut this conversation now, but come and have a nice chat, nice conversation with the guys. So grateful for you coming here and share your thoughts, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.